After leaving Earth, Newt appointed a new sense of optimism regarding the state of things. Years in the asylum, drugged up, dreaming, isolated from the world, left her feeling that she wasn't really part of the world anyway. The dreams even subsided for some time into their journey. The optimism may have been short-lived, however, and Newt began to question her place in the universe once more, and the man, or synthetic, she had come to love. I should have guessed the first time I was with him. Everything was so perfect. Skin, hair, musculature, all of it meticulously designed and synthesized. I could imagine his designer relaxing behind a genetic schematic, adding and subtracting features with the arbitrary twist of a dial. He was an android construct, a replica. I think he was as surprised as anyone else to learn the truth. It was almost funny Bueller was the first man who ever loved me, and he wasn't a man at all. I had to keep my mind on our situation. Everything about this ship was wrong. Pre-programmed navigation, no weapons, capable of receiving communications but not transmitting. What the hell were they doing? The storeroom she used as her sleeping quarters was private, a 3 meter by 2 meter box, but since it was next to the ship's internal power and heating system, it was also hotter than most spots on board. She stripped to her undershirt and panties, lay down, and leaned back against the bulkhead that served as a pillow. Sweat slid down her bare skin, dampened her clothes, and made her feel sticky, and it was damn sure better than the company she'd have to endure otherwise. She was dozing when Hicks appeared in the doorway. She hadn't bothered to slide shut the hanging curtain she'd rigged. His sudden presence startled her. "Make some noise when you move, Hicks. You scared me." He stepped into the room, his feet nearly touching hers. Something about the way he stood there made her nervous. "Everything scares you, Newt," he said. She blinked sweat away, wiped at her eyes. "What are you talking about?" He moved closer, knelt, reached out and caught her shoulders. "When you were a kid, you were scared of dying. Later, you were scared of living." "Jesus, Hicks, back off." He grabbed her wrists, leaned against her. His face was only centimeters from hers now. She could smell his sweat. "You really prefer that thing in the computer room? Wouldn't you rather be with a real man, one who has all the right equipment?" She felt something hard poke into her belly. Christ, was he going to rape her? "Hicks, stop it. Why are you doing this?" He jerked back. "Why? Because I'm going to make you face yourself. What you're afraid of. Love, passion, caring, people." Newt looked down and saw the bulge she'd felt wasn't what she'd thought. It was his belly. With a scream, his abdomen burst outward and a spray of flesh and gore, and a full-size adult alien came forth. Impossible. It wasn't physically possible. It smiled at her, showing the sharp carnivore's teeth. Slime and blood dripped as it reached for her. Oh my god. The dreams again. Oh fuck. A dream. Only a dream. But she knew better. It wasn't a dream. It was a vision. A communication. It was too real. It went too deep. They were here. On the ship. Newt grabbed her clothes and ran. Hicks was fiddling with the program that ran the external pickups, hoping to figure a way to magnify images visually when Newt rushed in. She was half into her coverall, drenched in sour sweat. "Hicks, they're here. On the ship." She grabbed at his shirt. "Take it easy. Take it easy. You saw one?" "She dreamed about it," Bueller said quietly. "Christ, Newt, they're dead. Like Earth. Like us. Maybe you're burnt out, Hicks. Maybe you want to die, but not me. Not by one of those things. Look, Newt, it doesn't make sense. Where is the gun, Hicks? If you won't help me find them, I'll do it myself." "Alright, you want to play Marine? We'll play Marine. But I'll keep the gun. We've only got part of one magazine left." What the hell, Hicks thought. It was something to do. So far, it had turned up exactly what he thought it would. 0. They'd been through all the ship, big enough to hide a small dog, and so far hadn't seen even an insect. Sometimes you got a few bugs on a ship, despite the zap field supposed to keep them off. Some guys made pets out of them. "That's it, Newt. End of sweep. Nobody home." "What about the aft cargo storage?" Hicks leaned the carbine against the wall and scratched a sweaty itch on his shoulder. "Can't get into it. Coded lock. We can't get in. Nothing can get out either. Come on, Hicks. I've seen these things operate. So have you. We could take a look at the door, if that'll make you happy." "It won't make me happy, but we have to check." The corridor leading to the aft cargo hatch was narrow and dimly lit, but Hicks could see down its length that the hatch door was shut and the LED on steady red lock. Like all inner doors, it was airtight and proof against sudden decompression or hammering of fists if somebody got on the wrong side of it during an emergency. Standard duralloy plates, 6 or 7 centimeters thick. Even the aliens could have trouble clawing through that. "What's that smell?" she asked. Hicks sniffed. Something burned. It smelled acrid, like cable insulation. A short somewhere? Could be easy enough, given how this ship was put together. "It's stronger over here," she said, pointing toward the side corridor they just passed. "Better check it out." A lazy wisp of smoke crawled from the corridor, a heavy vaporous snake that stayed low, hugging the deck. "Better grab an extinguisher," Hicks said. Suddenly there came a loud metallic scream, the blare of a klaxon. Foam from a ceiling fire suppressor sprayed into the corridor ahead of them, gushing from the cross corridor. They walked parallel to the aft cargo compartment, and it only took a couple of meters to find the source of the smoke. A dangling cable burned through, still smoking. "Hicks," Newt said. He turned to see what Newt wanted. There was a hole in the wall between the corridor and the aft cargo hold, a ragged, melted gap big enough for a man to walk through without touching the edges. Melted by acid. Lying on the floor was an alien. Part of the deck beneath it was eaten away by its blood, a fluid so acidic as to defy belief. One theory Newt had heard in the casts was that it made the things taste bad. That was fairly horrifying. What kind of creature could possibly eat these monsters? Along with the dead alien, the main cargo in the hold seemed to be 4 hypersleep chambers. Each had once contained a person. What was left to the 4 bodies wouldn't add up to one full-size corpse. The lids of the chambers were cracked and blood splattered, human blood from the look of it, and long dried. Newt felt like vomiting. She fought for control, won, but barely. Hicks examined one of the control panels next to a ruined chamber. He turned back to Newt, who was glancing around quickly, expecting an attack at any second. "These 4 were deep into it," he said. "Iced as cool as you can get without killing them. I think maybe somebody knew they were infected, trying to keep the things growing inside the humans dormant. Looks like it didn't work." "Why? Why would anybody do that?" Hicks shook his head. "Dunno." He looked around, the carbine held ready. "Politics, profit, we can talk philosophy later. The way I figure it, there were 4 aliens. 3 of them killed the 4th and used its acid blood to eat themselves an exit. They finished off breakfast." He waved the carbine at the mostly eaten bodies. "And they'll be out looking for dinner." "Mitch." "Don't worry about Bueller. They don't much like the flavor of android. We figured that out on the trip to their homeworld." He turned, brought the carbine up. Something hissed. The thing stepped out into the light. If the monster had eyes, they were hidden from view as always, but whatever senses it used knew they were there. The external jaws opened and drool dripped from the rows of the finger-thick needles that were its teeth. The spiky tail lashed back and forth like that of a cat about to pounce. "You son of a bitch," Hicks shouted at the creature. "Maybe we brought it on ourselves. Maybe things like you really are the next evolutionary step. I just don't give a shit anymore." The boom of the carbine was loud in the cargo hold, a blast that bounced from the hard walls and hurt Newt's ears. The alien fell backward. Newt saw the top of its head 10 centimeters behind the jaws burst outward, tiny chips of armor flying as the bullet tore through. A thin stream of yellowish liquid spewed, painted the floor. It seemed to fall in slow motion, collapsing into a heap onto a hatch set flush into the deck. "You got it!" The hatch began to smoke where the stream of acid landed. More liquid pooled from the punctured skull. "Out, Newt. That's a dump hatch. It leads to a lock between here and the hull. If that shit eats through the outer door..." Newt didn't need to be told. She jumped for the door in the bulkhead behind her. Hicks was right on her heels. She was 2 meters ahead of Hicks when another alarm, more strident, began to blare. That would be the hull breach warning. The floor-to-ceiling hatch 5 meters ahead began to slide down. A light next to it lit and flashed red. Unless something plugged the hole in the hull, all of the air on this side of the hatch was going to piss itself into the vacuum. Anybody on this side of the hatch was going to die trying to breathe nothingness. Newt dived at the closing hatch, made it through, hit the deck. She saw that Hicks wouldn't make it. She tried, dived, stretched out at full length, but the door came down across the small of his back. Newt saw it press into his flesh. He screamed in agony. Newt managed to override and reopen the hatch, releasing Hicks, who collapsed. "So cold," he managed to say. "Can't catch my breath." He had been exposed to open space and suffering from the bends. Newt leaned in to help. "You killed it. It's over." "No. 2 left," Hicks said. Newt carried Hicks back to the control room with Bueller to report the events. "We've got company," she said. "Maybe next time you two will listen to me when I tell you something." Hicks began playing with the internal video cams. They weren't much, basic and cheap, bottom-of-the-line Cambodian units. Terran regulations required such equipment, even on robot ships. And for once, Hicks was glad to see Union politics doing something useful. No motion sensors or infrared, but something was better than nothing. "We figure there are 2 of them left," Newt said. She leaned against the back of Hicks's chair, watching the monitors as Hicks brought up the various views. "Nothing in the main corridor." "How did they get on board?" Hicks said somebody had 4 demi-stiffs in chambers in the aft cargo hold, infected. The midline cargo bay was clear. "Why would anybody do that?" "Good question. Fuck if I know." No monsters in the makeshift head. Hicks brought up another view, this time of the kitchen they'd rigged. Nobody home. They said nothing for a few seconds. Then, they spotted the aliens. They were on the ceiling of the corridor, just inside the midline cargo section. If Hicks hadn't known they could do that, lash themselves to the ceiling, he wouldn't have had the camera doing full pans. But he'd seen the things come off from the walls and ceilings of their nests. They weren't moving, and if he hadn't known better, they looked like some kind of sculpture hung by a modern artist. "There they are," Hicks said. "Quick, open the hatch." Bueller opened the cargo hatch, sending the xenomorphs out into a vacuum, and one of them out into the cold of space. The other, however, had managed to claw itself onto the exterior of the ship. One threat remained against the crew of the American. It was then that something started banging on the hull. The pounding that vibrated through the ship changed to a scraping noise, like giant claws scratching on metal. Bueller instantly recognized the severity of the situation. "I'll go," Bueller said. "Wait a second," Newt said. "Why does anybody have to do anything? It's outside. It doesn't have any air. It will freeze. It will die." Hicks shook his head. "It's not human, Newt. We don't know what kind of oxygen or energy reserves it has tucked away. It might survive a long time. Any of us would already be history out there. So, fuck it. Let it croak slowly." Bueller picked it up. "This isn't a combat ship, Newt. No armor. There are things it could damage out there. Heat tiles and a hydraulic sheathing will protect against atmospheric burns and space dust, but not against what that creature could do." Newt shook her head. "Great. Just fucking great." "We have a couple of inspection suits," Bueller said. "Umbilicals. I'll see if I can rig one to fit me." Newt continued shaking her head. She stared at him, and took a deep breath. Hicks and Bueller were in no condition to go, leaving her as the best possible hope to eliminate the alien threat that could cause fatal damage to the ship at any moment. She volunteered for the task. Newt stripped to her undershirt and panties. The lock was chilly, the suit stiff and bulky as she stepped into the bottom half and worked it up her legs. Hicks had drilled her half a dozen times in how to put on the suit, how to test the seals, make sure everything was in working order. If he could have moved, he would have been there checking it. Of course, if he could have moved, he would have gone himself. The suit had a voxcom. Hicks's voice came over it as Newt lowered the hard plastic helmet into place. Armed with the carbine, Newt made her way out into space to eliminate the alien threat. She instantly recognized her vulnerability in this situation. I could hear hissing out of the chamber. The fabric of my suit rippled as the pressure dropped. The silence was loud, like a scream. I could feel them outside. Their patience was their strength. Humans measure time in minutes, seconds, microseconds. Time never mattered to the alien, only survival. God help me, I was beginning to understand them. Newt knew what she was dealing with. She had a gun that could kill it. She was brighter. The drones were like big ants or bees. They were nasty and deadly, but stupid. That's what everybody said. Relentless, yes. Smart, no. Fograv was confined to the inside surfaces of the ship. Outside, the thing would float away, if it wasn't very careful. Newt could walk on the hull with her boots. The alien would have to have something to hold on to, and it wasn't going to be her. The local sun was shining, but on the opposite side of the ship. Newt moved to the entrance, leaned out and looked to the sides. The ship had running lights, and the faint glow was enough for her to see the immediate area was clear. Nobody in sight. I'm going out. The magnets are stronger under the arch of your foot, weaker at the ball and heel, Hicks said. Walk as normally as you can, and the boot will peel up and replant okay. It'll feel like you're stepping on something real sticky. Just take it slow. Keep one foot down at all times. Hicks, you already said that. It wasn't too long ago. My brain hasn't gone dead yet. Newt moved her other leg to the outside of the ship, triggered the magnetics on the left boot. She felt a sudden dizziness as she stood up, extending from the side of the ship like a thorn stuck into it. She attached the magnetic ball of the umbilical to the ship as a backup. You'll probably feel like you're falling, Hicks said. That's okay, don't let that bother you. You'll adjust in a little while. Newt looked around. God, it was so big. Despite the fear she felt, a sense of wonder flowed into her. There was a kind of razor-edge beauty to it. It's a real e-ticket ride out here. Ain't it, though? Hicks said. You never forget your first EVA. Assuming you survive it, Newt said. Walking was, as Hicks said, not too hard, a little awkward, but not bad once you got used to it. She felt as if she were the only person in the entire universe. I'm going to walk toward the back of the ship. I'll stay near the right edge so I can look down the side. Newt started moving. She held the carbine ready to fire, her finger on the trigger. You weren't supposed to do that. You weren't supposed to touch the trigger until you're ready to fire the weapon, but she wasn't going to risk fumbling in the damn gloves when she couldn't feel anything through them. The umbilical ball rolled soundlessly along behind her. She started to turn back and peer over the side of the ship when she caught a glimpse of movement in her peripheral vision. The alien flew toward her like some malignant retrobird, arms extended, taloned hands spread wide to catch her. She screamed, something wordless and primal, and snapped the carbine up. No time to aim. Just point it and shoot. The recoil from the first shot peeled her free of the ship. She couldn't tell if she'd hit the alien or not. The second shot's recoil spun her backward into a flip. Her lower body and feet blocked her view of the onrushing monster. The umbilical created drag. The magnetic ball held. Instead of finishing the flip or sailing straight back, she arced downward toward the ship, went over the side, still connected to the hull. Her weapon, however, had been lost. Newt, God damn it, answer me. Okay. It's okay, I'm alright. Newt went down the rear of the ship until she was at the docking thruster. The main thruster was a hollow tube, a good 3 meters across, and it went far in enough so the other end of it was in complete blackness. The only way she was going to see that far was to lean over the rim and use her helmet light, which meant that if anything was in there, it was going to see her when she peeped over the edge. Then she saw the alien. It was crouched against the reaction tubes, ready to spring, as if it known she was coming. Oh shit, it's in the thruster. Newt scrabbled backward, trying to get back over the rim. Her gloved hand slipped on the ceramic liner. In desperation, Newt realized she was trying to do the wrong thing. There wasn't any gravity out there. She didn't have to crawl backward onto the ship, she just had to get out of the thing's way. She was thinking in 2 dimensions, but she had now 2 wings. She shoved as if she were doing a push-up, flew away from the ship at the right angle. I'm clear. The thrusters ignited. Fire blossomed, yellow-orange heat and light that nearly opaqued her faceplate as the polarizers turned the plastic dark against the wash of the brightness. She imagined she could hear the alien scream as it pinwheeled away from the ship, wrapped in a mantle of burning fluids cooking within its shell. She found herself grinning, wolfishly. The alien enjoyed an ethical purity that transcended morality. It didn't concern itself with human concepts of good and evil. It didn't have to. It bore no malice when it killed, and that was where we were different. In the black vacuum of space, death was the only absolute. Survival was imperative, and I took pleasure in watching it burn. 2 days after Newt blasted the last alien into space, Bueller picked up radio transmissions. The signals were on the military band encoded, so they didn't know what was being said, but from the strength, they had to be close. Unfortunately, the ship did not have any transmitters they could use, only receivers. It didn't take Hicks long to figure out where the signals originated. Hello, he said. Looky here. Newt leaned over his shoulder as Hicks played with the computer screen. got us a planetoid, not much bigger than a moon, but in direct orbit around the local primary. Been on the opposite side of the sun from us pretty much since we left the chambers. That's why we couldn't see it. Numbers crawled up on the screen. Hicks did something and the tiny blotch expanded on a roughly spherical shape overlaid with grid lines. Colonial Marine Base? Bueller said. That would be my guess, Hicks said. Inflate a few pressure domes, pump them full of breathable, bury a couple gravity generators, and you got all the comforts of home. Provided you grew up in the barracks. Military has hundreds of these bases scattered around the galaxy, or did have. The three of them stared at the computer-augmented image. Newt wondered if they were thinking the same thing as she was. Was this a place of refuge, or were they leaping from the frying pan into the fire? It looked as if they were going to find out soon. In this series, I'm recounting the Earth War, as depicted in the Aliens comic series, and the events leading up to it, as well as the aftermath. The accounts are explored as originally published, despite certain names, locations, and other events having been altered over time. For more on the Earth War series, you can check out the accounts of the Earth War playlist on the end screen, and stay tuned for the latest videos. And as always, I'd like to thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it, and if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give it a like, and you can also subscribe for all the latest videos from the channel. A very, very special thanks goes out to WEYLAND YUTANI executive, EmYarUk, part of our Patreon Hive. I'd also like to thank our Hive's queen, Lady Anne. If you'd like to join the Hive and support the channel, check out my Patreon page for exclusive posts and contests. In the meantime, you can catch up with Alien Theory over social media. Follow @alien_theory on Twitter and @alientheoryyt on Facebook and Instagram for more. And until next time, this is Alien Theory, signing off.